I'm Nelson Moskowitz. I'm chairperson this year of the Yom HaShoah Gvura program. And I welcome you to the 2018 joint Young Israel Shomrai Emunah and the KMS Yom HaShoah commemoration. Our committee extends its gratitude to Rabbi Weinberg and to Rabbi Rosenbaum for their unwavering support for this program and for the use of the shuls throughout the 35 plus years that we've been running this program. Following my introduction, Rabbi Weinberg will address us with a Dvar Torah. We'll then have a youth candle lighting ceremony. A presentation will be made by Rabbi Barry Greengart for the Yeshiva of Greater Washington and the Bourbon Hebrew Academy for participating in our Yom HaShoah Torah learning. This year we have as our featured speaker Mrs. Miriam Farkas Ingber, who will tell us of her experiences growing up in as an Orthodox Jewish girl living in what was then Czechoslovakia, going back to 1939, and when it became Hungary, and we'll talk about the transition, the time period then. It's imperative for us to hear from the survivors of the Shoah, especially those few that have survived to this day. Her pre-war family life, the murder of her family members, her time in Auschwitz and in Stutthof, the death march and with the Soviet forces liberated her, are all riveting history. After Mrs. Ingber's presentation, time permitting, she will take questions from those in the audience. We'll conclude with singing of Ani Mamin and Hatikva. There will be a Marav Minyan at the end of the commemoration. As Jews, we not only share a covenant of faith, we also share a covenant of fate. Today, as the numbers of the Shoah survivors sadly declines, the duty of remembrance of the Shoah falls on our generations and on future generations not yet born. Yom HaShoah provides us with a focal point for remembrance. We can't bring back to life those who were murdered, but we can bring their memory back to life and ensure they are not forgotten. We can undertake in our lives to do what they were so cruelly prevented from doing in their lives. In doing so, we declare a great affirmation of Jewish life. We ensure that out of the darkest night, the light of the survivors and their memories remains. Faced with destruction, the Jewish people survived. Lo amut ki echya, says Tillim. I will not die, I will live. Holocaust survivors are among the most inspiring people I have ever met. Remarkably, despite having seen death face to face, despite unimaginable losses to each of them, so many of them fulfilled the words of Rav Moshe Rabbeinu's great commandment, Ubachartu b'chayim, choose life. In doing so, they had Jewish life not only for themselves, but also for their children, for their grandchildren, and for the future generations of Am Yisrael. Looking at where we are now in our present situations, we should not stand silent when we see the specter of blind hatred against Jews rising again. Recent anti-Semitic acts that have been carried out in Europe and England and here in the United States indicate that in the ambitions to expressing open hatred toward Jews that may have come up in that period right after the Shoah, they've mostly disappeared. Even in the United States, blatantly anti-Semitic demonstrations in major cities have shocked many American Jews who are confident that, unlike Europe, it's not going to happen here. The increased dominance of anti-Israel elements on college campuses, where the next generation of the country's political, business, and intellectual leadership is being educated, provides additional grounds for concern. Today, much of which purports to be criticism of Israel, even in the respectable media, is reminiscent of Nazi anti-Semitic propaganda. Anti-Semitic and anti-Israel propaganda inciting to terrorism, disseminated by Muslim states and organizations, have increased extensively. It's influenced millions of Muslims and their sympathizers globally, laying down for the harassment of Jews and Israelis and the support of terrorism. These developments demand careful vigilance on the part of the Jewish communities around the world and illustrate, again, that the dark anti-Jewish prejudice which motivated the Holocaust is still alive in much of the world. I will call Rabbi Weinberg to deliver the Dvar Torah.
Tragic death of Nadav and Avihu, which we read about this past Shabbos, is referenced again in the beginning of Parshas Achrei Mos as the preamble to the description of the Avodas Yom HaKippurim, the service carried out by Aaron HaKohen, Kohen Gadols in the future, in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. The Talmud Yerushalmi asks why this tragic incident is referenced again as the preamble to Avodas Yom HaKippurim. What's the connection between them? Tragic death occurred on the 1st of Nisan, nowhere near the date of Yom Kippur. Talmud Yerushalmi answers and says that the reference there is very appropriate because there's a connection between the death of Nadav and Avihu and the day of Yom Kippur itself. Talmud Yerushalmi says, Keshem sheyom HaKippurim mechaper al Yisrael kach misason shel tzadikim mechaperes al Yisrael. Just like Yom Kippur is a day that atones for the Jewish people, so too the death of righteous ones also atones for the Jewish people. Very strange concept. Almost the non-Jewish sounding concept that the death of righteous ones somehow atones for those who are still living in the world. How exactly does that work? The Torah Tamima offers an unbelievable answer to this question and a beautiful insight into this Talmud Yerushalmi. The Torah Tamima says, Lo hamisa be'atzma mechaperes. It's not the death of righteous ones that leads to atonement. Ela hakavod v'ha'evel shenoagin b'misas tzadikim. De kavod zeh hu kavod Hashem. It's not the death itself of the righteous people that leads to the atonement of the Jewish people. Rather, it's the reaction of those still living, the reaction of those left behind to the death of the righteous ones that brings atonement. It's the way that we react, it's the way that we mourn, it's the way that we remember, it's the way that we learn from those righteous ones who died that brings greater atonement to the Jewish people and to the world. And Torah Tamima proves it from historian Shmuel Bet and from a medrash, but in the end of the day, the point is so powerful. Lo hamisa mechaperes, ela hakavod v'ha'evel shenoagin b'misas tzadikim. It's the honor that we show. It's the reaction that we have. We sit here tonight to react to the death of righteous ones. We sit here tonight to commemorate the greatest tragedy of modern Jewish history, perhaps one of the greatest tragedies of all of Jewish history, the murder of 6 million of our people and the loss of billions more that might have come from those 6 million. The loss of Torah, the loss of Sfarim, the loss of culture, the loss of knowledge, the loss of the greatest minds and communities that the Jewish people has known. And we sit here tonight and we realize we can't turn the clocks back. We sit here tonight and we realize we can't undo the catastrophe of the Shoah. We realize we can't even make sense of the catastrophe of the Shoah. But there is something we can do. We can remember. And in remembering, we honor and pay tribute and recognize those that died and those that survived. We mourn for them, we learn from them, and we thank them with every fiber of our being for allowing us as a people to survive, for allowing our community to survive and to continue. And by doing that, hopefully we all bring a measure of redemption and a measure of atonement to our world, which is still so filled with darkness, with evil, and with hatred. I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight to perform this incredibly sacred task of remembering. Thank the committee for their incredible work. Thank all of our survivors for being here. I'd like to ask all of the survivors in the room to please stand for a moment. In incredible honor and respect, I'd now like to ask everyone else in the room to please stand in their honor, in honor of all survivors who are here and who are not here. Please be seated.
Ready? We'll now remember the 6 million Kedoshim who perished with a candle lighting ceremony. Sorry. Oh, over here.
Erev Tov. The youth have worked very hard on a series of vignettes about child survivors. Many of these vignettes were inspired by Rav Lau's book, Out of the Depths, or Al Tishlach Yadcha El Hanar. It was important for the students to make sure that the last of the vignettes was one of hope for the children. We originally thought that we'd be hearing from a child survivor, so that was why we focused on the theme of child survivors. I hope that you will all be inspired by the students' skits, as well as by our wonderful speaker, Mrs. Miriam Farkas Ingber. Thanks as always to all of our wonderful and talented students. Thanks also to Mrs. Lisa Melman for all of her help and support with youth, as well as to the rest of the Camp Mill Holocaust Committee for all their commitment to this program. The slides that you will be seeing are from Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau's book and are real pictures from the time of the Shoah and post the Shoah.
Schnell! 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 Stop!
I cannot believe that I was able to save one of my children and not the other.
I remember the day my mother cried because she could not see my brother.
We light this candle for all the children whose parents were successful at hiding them from the Nazis. We light this candle for the siblings of the children who did not make it out of hiding and were discovered by the Nazis.
Come, my children.
Come in, my friends, come in. Can you please hide my children? I need to go. Please make sure they are safe. I'll come get them when this is over.
Yes, we'll take care of them until you come home. God bless.
God bless.
Come, my children, we'll feed you.
I miss my mommy.
Flash forward. The children have grown up in the past 5 to 6 years of the war. They do not know that they are Jewish, and their parents have not come back for them.
Rabbi, come in.
Good afternoon. I have come to retrieve the Jewish children.
Of course, they're over here playing.
Children, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad.
I remember. My tata used to say that to me when I was young.
Wonderful. Come back with me, my Kandulach.
We light this candle in remembrance of the children who were saved by the valiant efforts of the righteous Gentile. We light this candle for the children whose parents were unable to retrieve them from the monasteries and bring them back home to raise them with Jewish values. This scene depicts a mother and a daughter who were hiding from the Nazis.
Mommy, I'm scared. Shh, my little one. You must be quiet so they don't find us. Here, have a sugar. Thank you.
I remember it was special days where my mommy gave me sugar cookies when we were in hiding.
We light this candle for all the children whose mothers tried to stifle their cries in order to save them from the treachery of the Nazis.
Wow, look, there's some land. I think that's Israel.
I can't wait to be in my new home.
I remember my parents dreaming of Eretz Yisrael, our homeland.
We light this candle for the children who survived the war and built new lives with bright futures full of Jewish values.
Barry Greengart will now bring the Torah Learning Awards presentation.
As we've done for many years, an important part of our program, the Kemp Synagogue and Young Israel Shomrai Emunah Holocaust Commemoration, sponsors a program of Torah learning for the yeshiva students of our community to memorialize the Le'ilui Nishmas, the Kedoshim, who perished in the Holocaust. It's very appropriate that the Yom HaShoah commemoration program sponsor in some small way the continued learning of Torah by our high school students. And we hope that the fervor of their learning Torah and their doing mitzvos while they're learning Torah perpetuates the Kedusha and the fervor of the lives of the martyrs that were cruelly extinguished in the Shoah. In recognition of the Torah learning that our students have done, the Holocaust commemoration donates funds towards the libraries of their schools. The Torah learning that will be enhanced by these Sfarim is also a commemoration of the Kedoshim who perished, and in recognition of the countless and priceless loss of rabbinical and Judaic literature and culture during these years. Also, as was in this past 7 years, yeshiva boys, students, are also making a siyum l'zecher nishmas Horaveinu Mizatzal, whose 8th yortzeit is actually tonight, 1 year. As well as the nishmos HaKadoshim who perished in the Holocaust. This is also very appropriate because any learning, any teaching, any harbotzas Torah and values that personified Rav Einemer, who built this wonderful community, is also the Le'ilui Nishmas, the Torah giants, and the Torah institutions that were communities that were destroyed. Yehei Zichram Baruch. At this point, I'd like to thank Rabbi Hess and Rabbi Lyman for coordinating the Yeshiva Boys division of learning Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, as they've done in the past 7 years. And to represent the Yeshiva High School Boys Division, I'd like to call on Eitan Edinger to receive the certificate on the behalf of the students. This will be transferred to funding for the Yeshiva Library. Reads that the Yom HaShoah Gvura commemoration presents a certificate to the students of Yeshiva High School Boys Division in recognition of their learning and completing Shiva Sidrei Mishnah in memory of our beloved Rav Eino Zatzal and in memory of the Kedoshim of the Shoah who died al Pi Hashem. The Yeshiva Girls Division also learned, and they focused on Sefer Tehillim. Tehillim is the real go-to Sefer for becoming closer to Hashem and is an important vehicle for prayer in any circumstances. I'm sure there were many, many chapters of Tehillim recited during the Holocaust. The zechus of this learning will elevate the nishmos of the Shoah victims who struggled mightily in maintaining their humanity and spirituality through Tehillim and through other forms of learning during horrific circumstances. We want to thank Mrs. Esther Schwartz and the Yeshiva Girls Administration for coordinating this meaningful learning project. I'd like to call at this point Ms. Rebecca Babbitt and Elisa Solber, hope I pronounced the name correct, okay, to accept the certificate on behalf of the Yeshiva Girls School. And the text reads the same way. This will be on the book plates of this form that we're going to get. Yom HaShoah presents the certificate of the students for Yeshiva of Kiev Washington Girls Division, recognition of their learning Sefer Tehillim in memory of the Kedoshim who died in the Holocaust. And finally, the students of the Berman Hebrew Academy learned Sefer Rambam, Sefer Hamada, and Hilchos Sfiras HaOmer. We want to thank Rabbi Moshe Grossberg, Shimi Trencher, and the upper school student leaders for coordinating this learning project. Sefer Hamada of the Rambam gives the foundation of Jewish values and the love of Hashem. And the laws of Sfiras HaOmer is the halacha for the time period that we're in currently now. This is the special time period that forms the essential link between Pesach and Shavuos, the bookend holidays that lay the foundation of love Hashem, which is Pesach, and the Torah way of life, which is Shavuos. It is therefore a very traditional and fitting memorial Le'ilui Neshamos HaKadoshim. I'd like to call on Nava Israel, and if Sammy Merzel also, to present the students of the Berman Hebrew Academy in receiving the certificate. Oh, here you go. Okay, thank you, Nava. Okay, again, we present this certificate to the students of Melvin J. Berman Hebrew Academy in recognition of their learning, Sefer Hamada of the Rambam, and Hilchos Sfiras HaOmer in memory of the Kedoshim who died in the Holocaust.
Thank you so much.
We thank the students of the local high school who had participated in the learning program, and may all the students learning and continued learning and doing mitzvos, as Rabbi Weinberg mentioned, so eloquently, continue to inspire themselves and all of us in memory of the Kedoshim. Thank you.
Before calling on our special speaker, I would like to show a slide showing the area where Mrs. Ingber was born. If you follow the blue lines, starting at the bottom at Terneva, which I'm pretty much sure I'm pronouncing incorrectly, but I wasn't that far away from where my parents came from, a town called Chust, which is about 80 kilometers away from this end of it, so very familiar with the area. Running up to Auschwitz, Birkenau, which was the first stop, and then pointing up towards Stutthof, where she ended up working in the labor camp there. and we're speaking about that. She was transported to Auschwitz, to Stutthof. We mentioned earlier about the transition that Czechoslovakia went through when it was taken over by Hungary, and again what changed in 1944 when the Germans really came in. The camp itself at Stutthof was an Arbeitslager, but it was also a death camp. Those who couldn't carry out the work, as laborious, difficult as it was, at the end of the day were killed there. There was a gas chamber there, and there were the usual modes used by them in the murders. When the Allies approached Stutthof, there were about 50,000 prisoners still there alive. The Germans then started a death march. They went north to the sea, as you can see from the top of the picture there. At the sea, they stopped and sent 5,000 people into the sea where they were machine gunned. The others were turned toward Germany and went on to their death march. They went off to Lohmberg, Germany. With this, you get an idea of where Ingber came from and where this story ends. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Mrs. Miriam Ingber as our guest speaker, and Dr. Kenneth Jacobson will moderate her presentation. At the end, there will be 4 slides shown of her family, and going back to when she got married, and there will be a question and answer period if time permits. Thank you.
Please go fall down now.
That's fine.
First of all, I would like to welcome you, Mrs. Ingber, and your entire extended family, and children, grandchildren, son-in-law.
Children, my grandson,
great-grandson,
and my son-in-law.
To Kemp Synagogue and our community, and we are truly honored with your presence
and
tonight.
my baby, Mori.
So as you know, I'm going to ask you some questions to guide you in telling your story.
Please do.
So the first question is, where were you born, and what was it like for your family when you were young?
I was born in Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia was Ukraine together, you know. It was hard, tough. It was very hard for a Jew to live, but we lived together with the Christians there, and we kept, kept on Pesach and kept on everything what we were supposed to. It wasn't easy nowhere for a Jew to live. It was nowhere to live an easy place, Europe. I'll tell you something. When my mother tried to save her, she thought if she saves her, then she might live. So she said she's going to hiding in the hills. And my father's best friend, who used to do business with him. But when we came to walking down the hill, he took a axe and ran after us to kill us.
An axe?
Yeah. Even he was my father's best friend. My father used to do business with him. But they hated us terrible. So that's how it was fun. We went down the hill. We grabbed the first train. You know, there was a small train. Picked up the last transport of the Jews. They were crippled and invalids. And took us to the ghetto, the Munkach ghetto.
What was it like being sent on the train to Auschwitz?
Terrible, awful. People couldn't go to the bathroom, and they made it there, and was smelling. It was awful. It was awful. People died. It was terrible.
When you got to Auschwitz, did you see Dr. Mengele, and what happened after that?
When we got into Auschwitz, the train stopped. It was so sad. The train stopped. People started going down, and they made the line, 5 in the line. And they start asking questions, everybody there. So when it came to me, Mengele came to me, and he said, to me, he said, you start being, polite. Are you healthy? Start asking questions. Sind Sie gesund? Sind Sie krank? Sind Sie... Everybody to the left, she said something to the right, and
How long were you in Auschwitz, and how did you survive there?
I was 6 weeks in Auschwitz. I survived. See, I survived. My mother, I had my mother, otherwise I wouldn't survive. Without her, never. She put a chair when they came to count us, Zellerfeld. She put a chair, because I was very weak, put a chair there, and I should be able to sit down before the Gestapo come to count you. And the Gestapo came, they picked me up, took away the chair, and they start counting you. So, we were Zellerfeld, they call it Zellerfeld, in the line. If they don't like you, they grabbed you and they took you out from the line and put you right in the death march.
Yeah.
So my mother wouldn't let me die, you see. And I'm alive, she is not.
What about the girl you told me about who had an epileptic seizure?
Yeah, and that was in Stutthof.
The Nazis sent you to Stutthof. What happened there?
Well, we were five storage beds.
Bunk. Five.
Five, like the soldiers.
Yeah.
And up on the top, the girl developed a seizure middle of the night. And we didn't know that what happened, you see. She made such a, she had the epilepsy, so she threw herself till she threw herself down on the floor. But we didn't know, we thought that the Nazis come to start shooting at us. It was horrible. They came and they started shooting and they took out all the people from there, and they threw us all out, and then they threw us back in through the window, and threw back out, and threw us back in. And we had to jump. That was punishment. Through the window, and out the window, and inside the window. That was our punishment.
And then you went on the death march. How many days was the death march?
Oh, I don't know, long time, till we find a place to sit down, till we find a place to, we used to be so tired, so cold, we put them together, one woman. We were about 5,000 women. Tried to finally they found a barn that we could rest up, but we couldn't stay long, just a few seconds, and we had to leave. To again, march again and go and go and go, days and days and days.
And
people die like flies, like flies.
And at the end, they left you in a barn. Can you tell us
At
what
the
happened?
end, they put us in the barn, and then the Gestapos were there, and there was no room for the people. Everybody was grew together, the legs and and like this to the end, grow together, couldn't move. We were there a long time till the Russian came.
The Russian army liberated you. What happened?
No good. No good. Didn't care for the people. Maybe my mother would be still alive if they cared. They were drunk, they came in and oh, what shall I tell you?
So now the war is over. How did you meet your husband? How old were
My
you?
husband, I was in DP Kemp. I was 14 years old, and then I was in Germany. Then I don't know, people got together and they wanted to celebrate the freedom that we're alive, that we got freed and everything. So one day my husband came over to me and we were in a camp, barracks. And he came over to me and he said, yeah, willen Sie tanzen? I said, no, ich kann nicht.
Translate, would you like to dance? And she said, I can't.
I couldn't, I really couldn't. I was a child, young child. But then he came again, he was like he let me be Just, yeah. One day he said, you want will mit mir Hasen haben? Will, yeah. Like I was an old maid.
He proposed to you. You
proposed
accepted.
that way.
So,
And it was still in the barracks, and well, look, I had nothing to lose,
so I'm showing a picture on the screen of your wedding invitation, and it says all of our dear friends are invited to celebrate with us in block D14 of Waldstadt, Pocking, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we were invited friends. I mean, everybody was a friend right away.
yes.
You didn't have friends, but all of us were survivors. Everybody was a survivor.
Right.
So you got together, the people, and we made, and actually my husband found a rabbi there who gave us Chepekadisha, who was in Kemp with him.
Wow. How did you get your wedding dress and your veil?
Oh my gosh, my husband ran to Germany, to deep Germany, and it tore off the drapes from the German woman, went into the woman's place. It tore off the drapes and came home and made me the dress for the German.
Okay, right. And turn to the next slide, please. This is what the DP camp looks like today. It's still intact, but very run down. It was probably run down then too. Terrible. Next slide. A picture, more recent picture of Mr. and Mrs. Ingber. And how long have you lived in Kemp Mill?
From Kemp Mill?
How long did you live in Kemp Mill? 30, 40 years?
Oh, kind of horror. Since,
40. And you came as an immigrant. You probably didn't know English. How did you adapt to America?
There is no human being on this earth. I was a teenager, and then I had another baby. Nobody cared. I went in, I said, look, I need help. He said, if you can help yourself, you have to go back where you came from. Nobody gave a hoot for you. It's the truth. That moment, nobody cared for the survivors, for anybody. I struggled I wanted to educate my kids and send them to the Hebrew Academy. I used to walk with him 5-6 miles because I didn't have transportation. But I did send them to Hebrew Academy. That was and they came out the best human being on this earth.
You'll see in the next slide. This was celebrating the bar mitzvah of your grandson, I believe. So, well, this concludes the interview part, but we would like to open it up to the audience in case someone has a question of Mrs. Ingber. Yes.
What'd you say?
Someone wants you to sing a Yiddish song.
Okay. Hey, turn it. I learned the song afterwards for the how's it goes? I knew a lot of songs, but then this song I learned from my mama. Mama, Mama Zisa, after she passed on and I couldn't find her. So I made up that song. Mama, Mama Zisa, wie besti. Mama, Mama Zisa, wustisti. Schreibst et mir a brief, leg es auf der Post. Mama, Mama Zisa, wie hast du mich gelost? Gelost hast du mich auf dem Jamschwemmer. Weißt du Gott, sie wirst in mir gefallen. Schreibst mir ein Brief, leg es auf der Post. Mama, Mama, siehst du, wie hast du mir gelost?
Yes. To paraphrase, it says, "Dear Mama, where are you? How are you? Why did you leave me? Couldn't you write me a little letter and put it in the post? And you're lost to me."
There's another song, but I don't know. That's Yiddish. My songs are in Yiddish. I'm sorry.
Let's take another question.
You want to know?
Please.
How did you have the strength to carry on after you got out? After everything you've been through, how did you have the strength to keep going and rebuild? Repeat the question.
How did you have the strength to carry on after everything you went through to rebuild your lives?
You'll be surprised. Especially if you have a child. First, I didn't have the strength. I didn't want to believe. What I went through, I said, I'm never going to believe in anything. But when you have a child, and you say, you must believe, you must believe. So you believe. And you go on, and you want to send your kids to Hebrew Academy, make them Jews, good Jews. You go on. You be surprised. Hi,
Yeah.
Mordechai.
You have a question of your mother?
You had a child in a displacement camp, and then you moved to Israel, or traveled to Israel, and you had another child. What was the determination to come to the United States?
What is
You already had two children. You were in Israel. Why did you come to the United States then?
Because Israel was very bad. I was determined. You know, you say, how that child exists, what she did. How? I was on the street. I was determined to bring my kid over and make a nice, fine Jewish. I was determined. More than you don't know what you don't know what I went through. Nobody in the world could believe what I went through as a child and how I struggled. But I made it. I made it for my kids. I made them nice, decent men.
How long was the boat ride from Israel to America?
Well, I want to run. You see, Israel was so bad. I came there, you couldn't get a little milk for a child. You couldn't get on the sand, we were on the sand. I want to run because I was born as a Czechoslovakia and I went to the council and I said, look, you must send me to America. It was tough. I had to leave my daughter with a child in Israel because they wouldn't let her out. So, and my son, she was born in Germany, they let him out. And I came and I raised the family, but I had no choice. I decided I must make a good home for my kids. My husband, God rest in peace, he, yes, no. So let's leave. He was from Romania. They wouldn't let him out. Everything I had to do on my own to fight.
Any other questions? Yes, please. In America, we all live very comfortable lives. How should we teach our own children to remember this experience that you went through?
How should she, Kemp, well, teach him. Teach him that stuff when I went, I taught my kids. I told them, Billy, they probably was sick of me listening. But it was very important to me. I should continue. My mother, my brother was, because he was 5 minutes, 5 seconds overslept. He came out and the Germans shot him. As a boy, 19 years old, I could write out.
Yes.
I lost so much.
Where did you settle? When you came to this country, did you come directly to Washington, D.C., or did you go to New York and then come to Washington? And where did you settle in Washington?
Well, I wanted to come to Washington. I tried to go to New York, but no, it's too much people. I came to Washington. First, I struggled very hard. Then I opened a little boutique shop as a tailor. My husband went to work in Vilna store as a tailor. So he came Friday. Mr. Vilner said, he said, goodbye, Mr. Vilner. He said, I see you next week. He said, no, you're not going to see me next week. It said, he took out the calendar. He said, when is Chodesh? My husband meant to take out the calendar to see when Rosh Chodesh is. Said, no, Rosh Chodesh is when Madame Batzula bill. So I let him go.
He wouldn't let him work because he didn't work on Shabbos.
So I said, I should have verwoezeld als aan een Shabbos gooi voor jen, maar als aan Shabbos gooi voor meer. So we opened a little dry cleaning store, Mom and Pop. That's how this one helped, and that one helped, and everybody helped. I couldn't write. I never went to school. If not them, I could not be nowhere.
Any? Yes, please.
How did you get to Israel?
How did you get to Israel? Did you go illegally to Israel, or was it?
I went to Israel because they told me they came to Stutthof, the Danzig, and they took all the survivors that they're gonna get promised this and this. And we got there, they give you nothing, give you sand, rocks.
Were you?
How did you get from Poking to Israel?
From Poking. I tell you, the joint.
The joint.
The joint. He said the women
Okay.
and children are be taken by plane because we want everybody come to Israel. And they took a plane, you know, where the military, and the plane caused fire. Man.
Yes. Can you summarize one or two things you want future generations to know?
What I want to know?
The important message for future generations.
I want my kids to find nice Jewish men.
That's not the question, but that wasn't the question.
That's what I want. I want Aida Shahain. Kemp zegt maar heb ervoor.
It's a good answer. Any further questions? Yes. To see. Did you ever want to go back to Czechoslovakia just to visit?
No.
No.
I never went back, no. I wish I would, but I never did. Czechoslovakia was a nice place. They loved the Jews. Until Masaryk, the president, was alive, the Jews were alive. The minute he died, they started the program on the Jews. That's why Hitler started in Austria.
Yes.
While you were in the camps, did you think people would come to help and liberate you, or was there no hope?
What?
When you were in the camps, did you ever expect people would come and liberate you, or you'd already
No.
given up hope?
Then we were in camp. There was the SS on top. We were on there on the sand and between electric wires. If you touch that, you're dead. So we used to sit down there and cry, sing Yiddish songs. If the SS came and beat you up because they didn't want you to sing. That's, we used to say outside the wires.
Did you ever think, Mom, that they were coming to save you? That somebody was coming to save you?
No, never. Never.
Okay.
I made up a song. Stuthof. Oi, Stuthof, die bist du weiter, bist du hier? Oi, Stuthof, wie wird mein Puter schön von dir? You understand? Wie hat mein Puter von dir? Oi, Stuthof, es wird schon kommen, eine Zeit. Wir werden Gurba frei. We used to make up songs.
You were singing for your freedom.
For my
from
freedom, but if they find that out,
Okay.
they were hanging us.
Right. So this concludes the interview and the questions.
Oh, thank you
And
very much.
I
I hope I'm blessed. I hope
We're very.
I hope I satisfied everybody. I'm sorry. I'm a liberal, you know.
Yes, you did great.
When
We are.
again, I come.
We're very grateful, and we're very sad about your suffering, but we're happy about the good things that happened later. So, thank you again.
But I'm here.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
look what I got. Just died Yiddish Bachuren.
Okay, Mom.
Aye. And I get in peace.
Now, while we can barely picture Mrs. Ingber's experience, we have some consolation in your survival and your ability to enlighten us what it meant to be a Jewish child and a youth in a world of unconscionable hatred and killing, and yet rise to such a beautiful Jewish family, such a beautiful life of survivors. The stories of the survivors and those who did not survive
Can I say something? There was so much anti-Semitism when I was born and I grew up that it's impossible to believe. But if you want to be a good Jew, you look away.
Well, what I'm proposing is not to look away, is for all of us never to forget. We know what's going on in the world. We hear from those survivors, and there's fewer and fewer of them. And we hear from others coming back and saying it never happened. It happened. It's very, very real. That makes it difficult for our children and for our grandchildren to be able to perceive just how difficult it was, just how much they went through, and just how much, because of their survival, we're here today. And Am Yisrael Chai. The nation moves on, and that's a lot to be said. We're going to finish off with singing Ani Mamin, and we're going to sing Hatikva. There will be a Marav Minyan after this. I do want to mention a couple special thanks to Rabbi Weinberg, Rabbi Rosenbaum for their unwavering support over the years for the Yom HaShoah program. I especially want to thank Debbie Katz and Dr. Ken Jacobson, without whom this event today could not have happened. I want to thank Lisa Melman, part of our youth program, Jason Mintz, who has been invaluable, and his technical proficiency, well, if I ever need anyone in this field, he's my man. I'd like to thank the Shul office, Henry Fuller and Mindy Levin especially, was very helpful in getting everything set up. To the members of our Holocaust Committee who over the last 35 years have worked with us in making the presentation of this program, whose names are on the program. I'd like to thank the many talented youth participants in the program and the Yeshiva and the Hebrew Academy and HDS for their continued support and involvement. Their role and ours to pass on the history and traditions of our people to the next generation. Thank you all for coming.
An addendum to the thank yous also is Reedy Isser from the Hebrew Academy, who also worked very hard in coordinating the youth program with the students, the skits and everything. Thank you very much. And Nissi Moskowitz, of course. Goes without saying. Okay, nothing goes without saying, actually. Okay, but the being that we really have to thank the most is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'chol dor v'dor, omdim aleinu chaloseinu, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzileinu miyadam. Ani mamin, ani mamin, ani mamin, be'emunah sheleima, bevias HaMoshiach, bevias HaMoshiach ani mamin, bevias HaMoshiach V'yas HaMoshiach ani ma'amin, v'af al pi sheyismameya, im kol zeh ani ma'amin, kol ba'levav b'nima, nefesh Yehudi homiyah, ufarsei mizrach hanima, I am with Sion Kofiam. Olam dosik vaseinu, atik v'meyam nachayim, liyosam choshi be'artzeinu b'eretz Sion Yerushalayim, liyosam choshi be'artzeinu b'eretz Yehudi Thank you all very much. Mariv will continue.